This KFAN podcast is sponsored by Builders and Remodelers, exclusive Twin Cities provider of Elements Windows. Get the highest quality windows at unmatchable value. Visit buildersandremodelers.com for more details.
We're back at the Meadows, and very happy to be joined by HOF Randall McDaniel, one of the very best offensive linemen in the history of the NFL, to talk about myriad things. But we'll begin with Jim Marshall and the death of Jim Marshall. That's been the common thread topic, 9 to noon today, beginning with Fran Tarkenton and now through Randall. And I know you didn't play with or against Jim, but he's football immortality like you. He's Vikings immortality like you. What do you remember about Jim?
Oh, God, I will bring this up. I remember the play when I was a kid. With what I did know of Marshall was him running the wrong way. Never thinking I was ever going to meet the man. And then, fast forward, get drafted to the Vikings, and then you get to meet the guy. All the things you heard about him, all the things that he did and what he went through. I had a blast getting to know him. I got to do some football camps with him, but I had more fun sitting backstage with him at events, just listening to him talk, tell the stories of what the Vikings did back in the day, and how, that's the history of this team. So getting to sit and do that with him was just a pleasure.
With Jim off the field, like when he's in his latter years and you're getting to know him backstage at events and stuff like that, is it fair to qualify him as a gentle giant? I mean, was he kind of on the quiet side?
I don't know, quiet, but I think they're mellow at that point. I met a lot of the old timers, as you want to call them, and if I would have met them in their heyday, I would have been afraid to go up and say something to them. Like the Marshalls. I talk about the Mean Joe Greens. They're all big teddy bears in the end, but they're great guys, and they were probably the same guy back then. Just no one got to see them off the field, and we're fortunate enough to be able to see them off the field when they're not playing, even when they were playing, but if you get that opportunity to meet one of the guys, even current players today, they're not the same person they are on the field that they are off the field.
Yeah, and you're in the Hall of Fame, and, it obviously has been and is on a day like this a big talker that Jim Marshall didn't get into the Hall of Fame. And, from what you know about it or what you know about the team, would you think that circumstance probably cost him a little bit? He's on a Purple People Eater line with Alan Page and Carl Eller. They both go to the Hall of Fame, but with that consecutive game streak and all those sacks and fumble recoveries and everything, those are HOF-like numbers, but for whatever the reason he didn't get in, it seems to be circumstantial. Would you agree?
I would. You would assume that he would be in. He would have been in before. I don't know. Hell, the Bears got the most people in the Hall of Fame. And so, you're never sure what they're looking for in that room. Yeah. But, he should have been in. My own personal opinion, he should have been in way before. Everybody assumes that he's in, and I think that could be part of the problem, too. People assume that he is in, and then when they hear that he's not, they're like, well, no, he's in. I go, no, he's not. So, no, in my own personal opinion, there's other people that agree with it. He should have been in.
And Randall, you and I have chatted on and off microphones many times, and neither one of us are old schooler, get off our lawn kind of guy when we're looking back at how the game was. And it really is interesting that, when Jim played and then compared to the era in which you played and then where we are now, what changes in the game, like in the trenches, have you noticed? Because a lot has changed where it's become a passing league and, certain infractions will favor one side more than the other, maybe to get scores higher. But in the trenches, has much in the actual game changed?
I don't think it has. Here's the biggest difference. The guys have gotten bigger. Yeah, right. I was looking at some of Jim's stats. I think back in the day he was 240. Running a 4.5 40. The difference is now the guys today that are bigger are running the 4.5 40. Yeah. So the bigger, faster, stronger thing may be different, but what happens in the trenches is still the same. You still got to break your man down across from you in front of you. You still got to wear him out throughout the game. and nothing's really changed. Everybody, they may label it or call it something different, but, when I'm watching film, I'm breaking down a person. The same thing I would do to beat a guy will still work today. So
now, lastly, when if you think about the surfaces on which you played, okay, and I'm not going to get deeply into your knees and your hips and physical condition and all that, but a majority of the time I or others would see Jim, there would be rapid physical decline with his ankles and his feet and his knees, and just from, just think the Veteran Stadium, and like that rock hard turf, or maybe even Dallas, or, some of these surfaces on which you guys played, they're more natural than they are now with not the AstroTurf, but the surfaces, the field turf, the surfaces on which they play. But that can lead to a rapid decline physically to like the knees and stuff, right?
Anytime. Well, it's the repetitive things that we do out on the field, the practice every day, the being on the field playing the 70 plays per game. That's all got wear and tear on the body. Some of the fields they're horrible to play on back in the day. He played outside on the mat. Frozen fields. I think that was more weather conditions that he had to deal with. But as the years went on, the AstroTurf was the latest, greatest invention that came along next. Yeah. And then you find out that that's probably the worst thing you could ever played on. Yeah. And then the field turf. It's more like natural grass, but it's still not natural grass. But I think besides the fields, I think it's just more the natural wear and tear on the body. When you do it for that long. And you're talking about high school through college, through the pros for every many years you do it. Your body doing that, 100 plays a day, it's gonna catch you in the end.
Lastly, I promise, if there are people listening now, and there are a lot of them who know the name Jim Marshall, they've seen him in the Ring of Honor at U.S. Bank Stadium, they might even know the 70 is retired by the team, but like they never watched him play, and maybe they haven't seen the NFL film clips with the big giant with the blood on the uniform getting around a left tackle, hitting a quarterback. If you were to share from what you saw or what you remember about Jim Marshall and the type of player he was, what would you say?
If I was going to share, for the young kids who never got to see him play, or the young adults who never got to see him play, go back, YouTube, look at the film, watch him play. Put 20 pounds on Jim Marshall back then, today, and he would still go out and destroy the players in front of him today. He was that good. Go back and look up the Purple People Eaters and look up the captain out there, and that's all you need to do to know how great of a player he was, how great of a person he was. It's one of those guys, like I said, he could have played today. Just like I said, add 20 pounds to him, and then he's a nightmare for anyone going up against him.
You're fantastic. Thank you for the time, and hit him straight and strong, okay?
All right, thank you.
Randall McDaniel, HOF, with the Minnesota Vikings. Stu Voigt. My man, let's continue a Meadows drive-by celebrating the memory of Jim Marshall. Good to see you, Stu. How are things?
Things are great. We'll find out after today how the golf game is, but so far so good.
You played with Jim Marshall. When you first heard the news, how hard did it hit you?
Well, it was hard because we were particularly close, of course, and when you're on the Vikings and a tight end, in those days, every day at practice you went against Marshall and Eller, and I always say that one made me a lot better football player, but also probably resulted in me being a half-inch shorter than I am today, because you take the pounding, you try to give a pounding, but Jim was the true leader of the Vikings. I would say, getting to be an old-timer now, the best leader the Vikings have ever had on their football club, and I think that's probably echoed by Bud Grant and a bunch of other veterans who really know the team from start to finish, so very special guy.
As somebody who played when you played and played with football immortality like you did, and, we're talking about Jim Marshall and we're celebrating his memory. Now you bring up the name Bud Grant. So not to be like morbid or weird or anything, but like when you're hearing about people with whom you've been super close for a super long time, and they were incredibly instrumental in your life, and they die. How at your age, at this stage of your life, how does that hit you?
Well, initially you shed some tears. My wife did too, because we got to know Jim and Sue very well over the years. Jim was kind of a little bit of a recluse at the end of his life, but a special guy, very smart guy, into things always. What I liked about Jim Marshall, interested in so many things, whether it be hang gliding or French vodka. I mean, he'd always have theories, and a special guy. I mean, when you played a long time like I did, that you realize how long he played is almost phenomenal. And I think without missing games, and always the captain has to be the guy that puts on the strong, fearless front, even when times are not good. And Jim did that. And I think it's right. And astute football knowledge like Bud Grant realized those leaders, great player. I mean, he had the statistics. It's I think repeat what everybody will say. It's a shame he's not in the Hall of Fame. I mean, he had the 100+ sacks and recovered fumbles and all this stuff, 4 Super Bowls, and realized he left Ohio State early. I think he played 2 years in Edmonton and a year in Cleveland. Saskatchewan. But, just a guy that I don't think he was overshadowed by Page and Eller, who are legitimate Hall of Famers. But maybe certainly he can't put the whole front four in the Hall of Fame. But he's one guy the Hall of Fame missed. He should be in.
Well, I mean, on that point, I mean, it does seem absolutely circumstantial that because he almost had the audacity to play on a line with Alan Page and Carl Eller, 2 Hall of Famers, for good teams most of the years, teams that got to the Super Bowl but didn't win, it's almost like the Hall of Fame voters looked at it like, well, we got these 2 here. They couldn't get over the hump and win the Super Bowl, so there's really, he was the odd man out, right?
Well, I think he was, like his, all the statistics, but also, the wrong way run and some of those things which were comical, but actually the wrong way run. You look at that play, what an unbelievable athletic effort. And I don't know if it's hearsay or half fact, half not fact. They wanted to train Jim Marshall at the time to fight Muhammad Ali way back when. And who knows if that was just barstool information. But he was that type of guy. I don't think playing against both him and Eller and Page, Jim Marshall was the toughest defensive lineman. Maybe didn't have the complete skills of those guys who are true first ballot Hall of Famers, but he was just a fraction away because, and he made that up with leadership and his being so sturdy and reliable and durable. That will never be matched. I don't know if any football player would want to match that type of length of a career.
Stu Voigt is our guest from the Meadows Big Vikings golf tournament today in Prior Lake. And we're discussing the life of Jim Marshall, sharing some memories, just a few more here for Stu so we can get out there and hit him straight and strong. But, you mentioned the longevity of Jim's career, 20 years in the NFL. And in years 19 and 20, when they went to 16-game schedules, he started every single game. In year 19 and 20, as a defensive end, where the rotations then weren't what they were now, so I ain't saying he played every down, but he played most of them. That's amazing at that position to start every game in years 19 and 20, don't you think?
Well, there's no question. Also, I think, little known fact, Jim Marshall, I mean, he's a big guy with big hands and probably played at 250 early in his career. Near the end of his career, I doubt he was over 240 pounds, which in that stage of his career, also guys were getting bigger, stronger, faster in the defensive line. He held his own. I think today he would have been probably a special pass rusher. I mean, maybe in year 19 didn't hold up against the run like, when you're going against 300-pound tackles. But I know practice against Eller and Marshall every day. And, of course, I didn't have the gravitas or the length of schedule or service. When he would in practice, sometimes he'd say brother-in-law. That meant let's kind of lean into each other and give out a big grunt, and we won't go as hard. But being the youngster there, I always said, well, I've had enough of you, Jim. If you had enough of me. When he said brother-in-law, I go, boy, that's the sweetest thing I ever heard.
Well, Stu, think about your lot in life back then when the 3-4 wasn't as prevalent as it is now. Buddy Ryan, who I believe was on the Vikings staff. Were you on the team when he was on the staff?
Oh, absolutely. And Buddy, Coach Bullfrog, yeah, he was a character, and everybody liked him, but also he has a distinct way of coaching, and he kind of hands off Jim Marshall, and to tell you the truth, hands off Alan and Carl Eller. They know what they have to do to get ready. He would work on the Mark Mulaney's and the Duck Whites and the Randy Holloways, but he'd leave these guys alone because, my gosh, these guys were almost his age at the time. And Buddy was another guy. I guess the thrill I had in my career was obviously playing with the Vikings, but to play with these original characters. I mean, it's easy to act like a caricature, But these guys were bigger and stronger and faster and off the field characters. I mean, Jim Marshall's notorious. He'd always have fastest. Another fact, I just remember, fastest beer chugger I ever met. And I come from Wisconsin. You had to challenge Jim at training camp. He had something going on with his soul where he could pour a beer down there, and I thought I was pretty good until he got done, slammed the bottle down, and I was only halfway done. So it was like, this guy's a man. He had tattoos on his forearm hands, and he was a big, strong guy, but in today's game, that'd be a small guy. But I think along with Carl, the outside pass rush is so big, he would have been perfect for today's game or any era's game because he had the skills.
Well, Stu, two to close here. Well, I mentioned Buddy Ryan, because Buddy Ryan, when he wins the Super Bowl with the Bears, he had the 46 with Plank and Fensick being super key at the safety spot, linebackers, Richard Dent, the whole thing. So the revolutionizing defense, was taking place in the mid-'80s. But when Jim played, there was a lot of 4-3, and I'm thinking of you as a tight end when you came into the league. Okay, you're practicing against Jim Marshall. Well, that's going to make you better. Iron sharpens iron. But then you get into games, and hopefully I'm not dating you here and missing somebody, but like Jack Youngblood, L.C. Greenwood, Ed Too Tall Jones, Elvin Bethea, players like that. I mean, the defensive ends in the 4-3 in the 70s and early 80s, that they were the greatest in the history of the NFL. Jim was one of them.
Oh, there's no question. And he ranks right up there. I mean, Youngblood, certainly we bumped heads with him, and Too Tall Jones bumped heads with his because the Vikings, we thought playoffs. I mean, I think probably the only year we missed when I was playing was 72 when we went 7-7, and the Packers snuck in there. But he was the leader. Those seasons get long. You have ups and downs. Jim Marshall, always very great sense of humor, great way of, they gave him some easy duty at the end where he didn't have to practice all the time. Nothing like it is today. There was no old-timer days in those days. If he needed a day off, he took it. Played through injuries, never let, which was so amazing to me. When the captain doesn't think he's hurt and he can go, you got to go too. So Jim Marshall, Hall of Fame guy, Hall of Fame, every aspect of his game. I'm not sure how that works with the Hall of Fame, but that's, I know he took that hard that we couldn't muster any, going in the, what do they call it, the old-timer division or the over the hill gang. And there's plenty of guys that don't get in that way, but that's tragedy. I think Bud, before he's died, I talked to him, and he was trying, and I'm not sure what you have to do as far as lobbying to get in the Hall of Fame, but we lost a Hall of Famer in Jim Marshall. Let's put it that way.
Last one, my brother. There are a lot of listening right now, teenagers, 20s, 30s, maybe even their 40s, who have heard the name Jim Marshall. Maybe they've looked up the stats and read into some things, but they never really got a chance to appreciate what he and the Purple People Eaters were like and never watched the games live. If you were to share with those who never saw him play and don't really know much about Jim Marshall, how did he play and what resonates with you with the way he played even right now?
Well, a true leader, courageous. It was contagious to other guys. He made the guys around him better. I think if you talk to Wally Hilgenberg, which was out to the side of him, Jim just played the one-end position. They didn't switch in those days. But a piece of a great defense. The Purple People Eaters, they were one of the best. I mean, great players. I mean, maybe you think of Page and Eller, but because they're stats Hall of Fame. But I think if you talk to those guys, they would say Jim Marshall, an impressive guy on the field, off the field. I consider him a good friend and even an old-timer like me. I shed a tear to lose the guy we called the captain. That's we called him Captain Jim. When he came around before the game, gave you that fist when a fist was not a thing, and you saw the big tattoo on his hand. He says, I'm playing for Jim Marshall as well as Stu Voigt because I had to hold up my end of the bargain.
You're awesome. Have fun today. Thanks for the time.
Thank you, sir.
That's Stu Voigt, who played with Jim Marshall for several years. We are honoring the life of Jim Marshall, Minnesota Vikings and football immortality, who died yesterday. 9 to noon with yours truly, Paul Allen. Producer Nordo's on site. We'll continue from the Meadows and Prior Lake after this on KFAN. All righty, Shorty here from the Meadows, and Big Shot Bob Robert Horry joins 9 to noon about 8 minutes from now to preview the NBA Finals and share some basketball-related memories from Robert Horry, who played with 4 teams. He won championships with 3 teams, and he's a 7-time NBA champion.
It's crazy.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. In fact, do you remember when Kawhi Leonard, for the Toronto Raptors, I believe it was the Eastern Conference Finals against Philadelphia, and he hit a corner.
Oh, that turnaround bucket that kind of played around with the rim a bit.
And he fell into the bench because he was falling and fading away.
Yeah.
Well, that's Robert Horry hit like 4 of those.
Yeah. He was not fazed by that moment.
So when I was crafting the questions,
welcome to the club, Kawhi.
I was thinking, that Kawhi Leonard, I'm not going to get it in there because it took too long, but that Kawhi Leonard shot, everybody goes nuts over, including yours truly and Nordo. And like Big Shot Bob's like, pardon the cliche here, but hold my beer.
Yeah.
I mean, I did that 4 times. And he hit some of the biggest shots in the history of the NBA. He played with Kobe Bryant, Shaquille O'Neal, Hakeem Olajuwon, Tony Parker, Manu Ginobili. He played with some of the stalwarts in the history of the NBA. We had discussed basketball with him last year, and it was fantastic, so he's kind enough to join us again this year. Then that's going to be followed by Minnesotan Jamie Erdahl. She's the talented host of Good Morning Football, and Good Morning Football tomorrow, and Friday has an all-woman cast for the show that features some luminaries from around the NFL, including our own Dawn Mitchell from Fox 9. She's going to be part of the Good Morning Football All Women Fest that starts tomorrow at 7 a.m. on Good Morning Football on NFL Network. So Miss Erdahl will join us at about 11 o'clock.
Yeah, maybe we can start the idea now that a great win streak began with her doing the Gallarhorn prior to that Colts game in primetime, early November maybe?
First question.
Well, I mean, I'm pretty confident that she has to do it again. So I think it needs to be a yearly occurrence, but Minnesota's own, Women on NFL Network, and of course Dawn Mitchell is part of the mix. It's going to be super cool to catch up with Jamie.
And I'm curious to know how you're going to get into the point that you're negative on the all-women cast over the course of 2 days. I'm kidding.
Well, I mean, because they're talking about men's sports, of course. So it's just the nature of things.
Beautiful. That's what we call getting the bit. It's wonderful what they're doing. It's going to be really, really good. NFL Network's the bomb, and the likes of .com Tom and Kyle Brandt, Maurice Jones-Drew, and Michael Robinson, and guys like that. They'll take a couple of days off for the ladies.
How cool is that show, by the way, and what they do? Mm-hmm. And somehow the league is basically trying to completely ruin the entire bit of what is an awesome property,
NFL Network,
an awesome station, and I just I hope
it's amazing
continuing to support the awesome work they're doing.
Well, how talented and good and I guess influential is the co-host Kyle Brandt?
Yeah.
He's very good. If you don't know who he is, NFL Network, extremely talented. He's done a lot of stuff in a lot of different levels of media and maybe even some film and stuff like that. But NFL Network was based in Secaucus, New Jersey, I believe, or somewhere south of New York City.
Yeah.
So they all lived back there. Then NFL Media decided it was going to go through a bunch of changes. And if you wanted to work for NFL Network and have like a full-time role, we need you to move to California. And the Culver City studios, which I've actually been at. And Kyle's like, I'm not moving. So I know you want me on set, but I ain't moving. So they say, cool, you can stay here. And you can do your part from here. So he's talented, he's gifted, but clearly he's influential. Robert Horry on the NBA Finals next on KFAN. We are at a Minnesota Vikings-related golf tournament. We have come across a lot of immortality, but it behooves us here to give Covenant claps for basketball immortality. Joining us right now. I mean, we're talking about 16 years, 7 NBA championships, hit some of the most cold-blooded shots in the history of the game. We're all watching Kawhi Leonard fall into the bench, hitting a fall-away three-pointer against the Sixers in the Eastern Conference Finals. And Robert Horry, he's like, well, I did that like 4 times. So we're happy for Kawhi, but we're also happy for Robert Horry, who joins us now. Big Shot is Paul Allen. How are you?
I'm good, man. How you doing, Paul?
Right on. Thank you very much for the time. And this is courtesy of BetOnline and BetOnline.com with the NBA Finals coming up around the corner. Of all the NBA Finals or Conference Finals game winners you hit, does any single one or do any of them like still stick with you and go to the top of the list?
Of course, yes. 2002 hitting a shot against the Sacramento Kings, and when we were down 2-1 in that series and then tie that thing up and to go to Sacramento was my favorite because, as an athlete, we don't want to say this, but we all got egos. And for me to knock down that shot in our arena and to hear the fans chant my name makes it way better, even though I had a great series in 2005 against the Pistons, but that shot and to hear the fans chant my name, it was amazing.
Well, I don't know if you heard my intro or not, but I mean, like, you're humble, man, and I've been a fan of yours all the years you played, nearly 2 decades, and you always were humble. So, like, Kawhi, when he's with Toronto, hits that fall-away three-pointer, falls into the bench, beats Philadelphia in the Eastern Conference Finals. Everybody's going nuts over Kawhi and that shot. It was an unbelievably good shot. But you're watching it, I'm watching it going like, all right, Big Shot did that like 3 or 4 times. Let's move on to the next game. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and plus I switched mine.
Yeah, his rolled around for a little bit, right?
It bounced around. It made it more for a dramatic scene, but Swish is better.
Before we chat a little bit about the NBA Finals, OKC and Indiana, playing with Kobe and Shaq, permit me to be the 1 millionth person to ask you this. What was that like?
Mm-hmm. Man, it was, first of all, I want to say it was easy because those guys made the game so easy because they demand double and triple teams, especially when it comes to Shaq. So you had pot shots and you had to knock down shots. You had driving lanes. It was fantastic. And, to see the competitive nature, you think about this, the way you get better is in practice, right? And when you got 2 of the best players to ever played a game on one team, you got to get better in practice, or they're going to just kill you and make you look foolish or make you feel like you don't belong. And so we had so much fun in practice, and then in games, of course, was easier. And it just made it it made it such a wonderful experience. And it's always great when you're playing with some of the greatest to ever do it and you're able to learn from them and make them better. That way you can sit down when your kids are watching TV and say, I made that guy better.
And it's so interesting. I mean, the players you played with, man. I mean, Kobe and Shaq, Hakeem Olajuwon, and Tim Duncan and so on. But, I mean, when it comes to winning a championship, like we're talking about the Lakers here. Okay, Big Shot Bob hit huge shots. Kobe, God rest his soul, and Shaq, I mean, everybody in the world knows those names. But what about, like, Brian Shaw? I mean, Brian Shaw was so important to, like, what you did back in the day, right?
Oh, yeah, Brian Shaw, Rick Fox, Derek Fisher, Ron Harper. The one thing about that doesn't get talked about enough in basketball, the importance of veteran leadership. You think about it, Brian Shaw had been in the league so long, him and Ron Harper, and they were able to bend the ear of Shaq. Shaq, and Brian played in Orlando together, so they had that little rapport going on. And then you had a guy like Ron Harper who played alongside MJ, and Kobe, he modeled his game out of MJ. So he had his ear. And that's so important in the game. Sometimes you'll let a veteran guy go because you think he's over the hill or he doesn't have it. So you bring in this young guy that doesn't have it, like this vet, and you lose that veteran leadership. You lose the locker room because that guy can pull everybody together and galvanize people. And when you get rid of that guy, the locker room can, fray. And I think that's one of the things that is missing. But when you like Brian Shaw, there's so many times where he would talk to Kobe and go to Shaq and he'll go back and forth, and then next thing you know, we got peace. And so it's very important for someone like that to be on a team.
And a couple of other incredibly important guys who didn't get the headlines, say, of Duncan and Robinson or Kobe and Shaq or Hakeem. it was like Tony Parker and Manu Ginobili, and you played with them. And, Greg Popovich, man, and hopefully his physical condition improves like this minute. But nevertheless, it was just so amazing back in the day where it'd be like, all right, Manu Ginobili, second-round pick, Tony Parker, late first, early second, whatever it was. I mean, I'm like, what rocks are they finding these guys under in Argentina and France? Because they're unbelievably good. It's like so few make it in the NBA, second round, late first round. Those guys not only made it, they were unbelievable.
It was, especially Ginobili. You think about his prowess in Argentina. He was already a great player, and all of a sudden he says, okay, I think I'll take my talents to the NBA. And, he was very fortunate. He went to a system like San Antonio, who is, very stern in how they run their plays and everything, and they fit Manu. And then, of course, okay, all right, Manu, I'm going to let you go a little, do the Manu thing, go a little crazy. And think about Tony Parker. Tony Parker, when he got in the league, he was just fast. And I think for him to get there and the way the Spurs molded him and allowed him to be better was just amazing. The facility was great, and Tony's willingness to try to get better. And that's what it has to be. You have to get into these guys' minds and say, you got to get better. And I think that was the best thing about the Spurs organization. It allowed Tony and Manu to get better, which, enabled them to win championships.
Up here in the cornfields, and Mike Conley's, right at the end of his career. He's had a wonderful career, but every time Mike would hit a floater in the key, I think of Tony Parker. I mean, is there anybody better at breaking somebody down off the dribble and then stopping and hitting a floater in the key than Tony Parker? He might be the best ever, right?
Yeah, I used to think it was Rod Strickland, and then Tony comes along. He perfected it and took it to a whole nother level. And this is the craziest stuff. I think it was maybe 2 or 3 years. He led the league in points in the paint as a point guard.
Yeah.
He was so quick. He would get to the paint and just shoot that floater. And you think about this. If Tony played in the league in this day and age, he would probably shoot 10 free throws a game because every time he shot that floater, he got knocked down. And the way they call fouls for people now, he went to the free throw line and probably averaged about 35 points. So he was just quick with it. He was able to knock that down because he wasn't a good outside shooter in the beginning of his career. So, he had to figure it out on how to score, and then he became a good 3-point shooter. So he was simply amazing at that craft.
All right, courtesy of Bet Online, Robert Horry for a few more minutes. NBA Finals, OKC bounces the Wolves. Indiana bounces the Knicks. Tibbs gets fired. I'm Racetrack Rays, man. I've been a racetrack announcer for 3 decades, so betting favorites is not my thing. I look at OKC here at minus 600, which is 6-1, and it comes back on the other side. Indiana's plus nearly 500, like plus 480 or something, meaning you put 100 on Indiana, and if they win the series, you scoop, nearly $600. Do you give Indiana, a big underdog, much of a chance in this series?
Oh, I give them a great chance. If you think about the way they've been playing lately and the way they play as a team is simply amazing. Even though OKC plays as a team, they kind of rely on one player, and that's the MVP SGA. If you watch the Indiana Pacers, I think almost every game they had a different leader score against the Knicks, and that's amazing. I know Siakam won the Eastern Conference Finals MVP, but they play so well. One night it's Halliburton, one day it's Nesmith. It goes. One day it's Siakam. So they got a plethora of guys they can use. So don't count them out, man. If you got money to burn, and that's what you do when you do bet. Yeah. I'm taking the Indiana Pacers at 490 compared to OKC 670. I'm taking the Pacers because they have a great chance of winning this.
Yeah, I'm never putting my $6.70 up against somebody else's dollar. Okay, I mean, just listen to that in principle. That's just never happening. So I'm either going to skip or I'm playing Halliburton. It's one of the two. Robert Horry, Big Shot Bob, courtesy of Bet Online. What do you think is because at Alabama, you played with Latrell Sprewell, right?
Correct.
Damn, man. So you and Spree with that defense at Alabama, holy cow. And when Robert came into the league, man, he was a 3-and-D guy. He could get to the basket and dunk and hit some huge free throws in playoff games too. But Robert's defense was fantastic. And as is many of the players for OKC. Now, when it comes to Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, love him, MVP. I mean, he's fantastic. He doesn't necessarily want to shoot the three, does he? So, like, defending OKC, what do you do?
But to me, you got to get the ball out of Shai Gilgeous-Alexander's hand. And then if it was me, I'm double-teaming him, Jay Williams, let everybody else beat me. I want Caruso knocking down shots. Even though Lou Dort's been knocking down shots, I want him knocking down all those guys. But you can't let the head of the snake kill you.
Yeah.
And I think when you watch Shai Gilgeous, you think about the one game that, that you guys won, it was because what? They played good defense, and I think Shai had 18 points or something like that. And so you have to control him. You can't control him, you're not going to win.
Well, I know you got to go. And just like last year, we could go for another hour talking about old school basketball. But God bless you, man, you and your family. And thank you very much for the time.
Bye.
All right, Robert?
My pleasure, man. And good luck to them Timberwolves next season because they're going to need it.
Wow, we might need another hour on that. See you later. Big Shot Bob, Robert Horry, and we thank him for his inclusion. When we return, Minnesotan Jamie Erdahl joins 9 to noon to discuss some big festivities beginning tomorrow. On NFL Network, you're listening to 9 to noon.